This video will discuss why we use correlation. What is the purpose of the correlational research strategy? So here I've just laid out a few of them, and we'll discuss them in a little bit more detail. But one is prediction. So if you have two variables that are correlated, you can use one to predict the other. And that's a different type of statistical analysis called regression. We can also check the validity of a measurement. We can check the reliability of a measurement. And we can use it just to test some sort of theory we have. Are two variables related? What's the relationship between two variables? So a little more about the first one, prediction. So the predictor variable is the first variable. And then we have a criterion variable, which is the second variable, or the variable that's being explained or predicted. So this variable is going to predict this variable. This is called a regression analysis, and while it's beyond the scope of this class to go into all the ins and outs of a regression analysis, if you go on in statistics, you'll learn much more about that. But it is a statistical process for using, again, one variable to predict the other. So using the x variable to predict the y variable. Given x, we can predict y, and this is what that formula looks like. This is the slope of the line, this is the y-intercept of the line, and so the idea is that we don't necessarily have this y value. We're given x, that's our predictor value. We know the slope, we know the y-intercept, and we can predict what that y variable will be. So again, if two variables are related, you could also have the reverse. You could use y to predict x as well. So the second and third purpose of a correlational research strategy is reliability and validity. And we talked about this a lot earlier this semester. Remember, we talked about using it for construct validity, where you take an established construct and you correlate the outcomes with the new measurement that you've created. Or for inter-rater reliability, where you have two people rating or observing the same thing, and you look to see if their scores are correlated. Or split half reliability, where you take a new measurement and you look at the scores of the first half of the test and the scores of the second half of the test. So reliability and validity are commonly defined by the relationships that are established using the correlational research design. In addition, theoretical questions. For example, studies of IQs of identical twins. Is there a correlation between identical twins and their IQs? You could use a correlation to test that hypothesis. Now, of course, we have strengths and weaknesses to a correlational research strategy. The strength is it describes a relationship between variables. It tells you how strongly those variables are associated. It's non-intrusive. Typically, they're natural behaviors. You're just recording things that are already happening. And it tends to have very high external validity. Of course, you cannot address causality. And that's because there's a third variable problem, a directionality problem, and we have low internal validity. So we're going to go and talk a little bit more about these two, the third variable problem and the directionality problem.